we have so many people living with so many different ideas where it didn't used to be that way.
Welcome to Mom Mentality, your virtual village of support. I'm Jessica Campbell, your family wellness coach, and I am committed to helping you prioritize your and your family's well-being. This podcast will be like your favorite ladies group chat come to life. We'll share the ups and downs of life for moms just like you, get real advice from coaches and experts, and I'll pop in with my own stories and tips on everyday challenges to the big questions. Whether you're juggling work from home, balancing adult life with parenthood, tackling ADHD, yours or your kids, or just trying to catch a breath, Mom Mentality is your spot.
How you doing?
Things have been going well. Got a lot of balls in the air. I'm juggling, but very well.
That's good. That's good. Good. Yeah. Tell me just a little bit about what you feel is going well.
I don't know. We just have a lot of things that have been going well. They do these like Christmas light walkthroughs every year. We did that. We went to my sisters for Thanksgiving, and that was fun. I had church today, so it's been good. We've just been in a really good place. I think my kids have been in a really good place, so yeah, I can't complain. I'm busy. I definitely feel like I need to schedule a day to do nothing. But other than that, all the things that are going on are good things though, so I'm just making sure to find the balance in all of it.
That's wonderful. It's good because when we as parents continue moving around and doing things, like I notice myself, I'm supposed to be resting right now because my kids are gone and stuff, but I actually clean because I've been really sick this past week. I didn't get to enjoy Thanksgiving, so it was a little hard on, but having those moments of good days and then having a moment to realize, okay, we need to take a rest as well. And actually, I guess maybe for me rest is cleaning. I feel different when my home is clean.
Right. I was gonna say that could be self-care too, though. When you don't have all that visual clutter and stuff, it's peaceful and you can rest much better when you're not looking up.
Yeah. Because that's hard. I mean, I have ADHD and with all this other stuff around, plus my kids moving around and they move one toy out and then another toy. They're supposed to put it back before they get another one out. But they say they connect. They say, no, I need it for this toy because this toy is playing with this toy. And I'm like, huh? Legos and blocks. Okay, I can get that. Stuffed animals and Legos, they don't quite match, but I don't know.
They do. But they do.
For their mind, they do.
Yeah, I'm like, get everything off of my couch. Like I have a whole big section that's always covered in stuff. I'm like, why? And then they have so many plushies that they will get like a bag of chips. And next thing I know, I find them crunched and mushed down underneath all the plushies. I'm like, get them off of here. But then they're like, but I need to keep these ones out. I'm like, okay, keep a couple out. They're like, no, but this one, they get as many as they can in their arms. And I'm like, dude, they do not all belong on my couch.
No, they don't. And I piled them high. Speaking of stomachs, they're piled high against the wall over there. And I'm like,
we have so many. I mean, I can't complain because my kids actually play with them. There's a lot of kids that get stuffies and do nothing with them. My kids love their plushies, but like, true. I'm like, we have so many. We have a pack and play in their like playroom that we don't use for Corey anymore, filled to the brim. And
I thought that's what you'd say.
Yeah, and then downstairs we've got the hangy things. We've got the ones that like go on the wall that look like the zoo to stuff them in, and then their bed's covered. I'm like, bro, how many of these do you need? And they want more and bigger ones. I'm like, where are we gonna put these? They're wild. They are wild. Kids are crazy.
Oh my gosh, yes. They make sense and then they don't make sense. And then they really don't make sense. I mean,
they're too funny. They are, oh my goodness. They're just wild.
Oh my gosh, yes. So I'm just like thinking about this and I've been on a real big theme, as you know, of self-care and just taking good care of ourselves as parents, because just talking to you right now, my heart's beating. I'm like, so much to do, and I totally get it, and I resonate with what you just said because I'm like, my kids are totally the same. They make messes, and then I want them clean, and they don't get clean maybe for a day, and I'm stepping on the little Legos, and I'm frustrated, and then I'm ready to blow because I'm like, I'm trying to let them have their space, but my space is gone.
Right. But this is a good point. When you're in a place of good self-care and understanding, you don't get so worked up and you can laugh about it with a friend and say, kids are wild.
Yes, that's right. And that's so important to bring in humor because so many times if I didn't have humor and someone to laugh with or to debrief with, I would have lost it. Yeah. I'm just thinking of the one Lego just cleaning just right before talking just now that I stepped on. And I'm like, why did I just take my slippers off?
Right.
I'm like cleaning. So I get the little Lego vacuum that I have and I suck it all up and enjoy, but I don't destroy their little creations though. I just get the ones that are loose because I can't do that because they worked so hard on it. I watched them.
My kids are that way. They'd be like, why are you erasing the marker board? I'm like, it's a new month, but you erased my drawing. I'm like, well, then you're going to have to put a new one on there because I need to do a whole fresh month. But they want to just leave them up there forever. I'm like, how many marker boards am I going to get that we just leave all the artwork up there? We can't.
I know.
Oh,
I tend to just say, here, take my phone camera, take a picture of it. And then they feel fine and I can erase it. I'm like, right?
I had to do that with my husband when we got married. Like, he's so sentimental. He wants to keep everything. I was like, take a picture and then we'll remember it. But just because it's a memory doesn't mean you keep it forever. You could just take the picture. So we definitely do that at our house. 100%.
Yes. What's something else that you guys do to help lessen the clutter in your home, to help keep your mentality?
We have so much stuff everywhere. I have learned to just be like, meh, but I have my moments and then we go and we try to attempt to organize, but I am not an organized person. My husband is very much like, he thinks he's organizing, but it's like little organized piles. So we have like, I tried to organize like my my closet. We have like a storage closet. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna put all these little buckets up here. And then I'm like, they all had a home. They were all for a specific reason. And now there's a bunch of stuff in all of them. So we're not very good people to ask about that. But I will say I have my girls talked into donating some of their stuff because a girl that they used to dance with, she moved to a different dance company, but their family lost everything in a house fire about a week ago.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, we're going to go through some stuff. And I was like, this is a great opportunity to teach them to help their community.
Absolutely.
But also like it gives them a reason to feel good about it. And it's not just some random person they don't know. So now they can understand truly helping somebody and not just like, oh, we're donating to Goodwill because some kids somewhere might enjoy it. Now they have that emotional connection to it. Like, I'm helping this family that I personally know and passing along some of my stuff. So, I mean, it's terrible, like terrible. I wouldn't say that obviously would never want that to happen to somebody, but I was able to
use it as a lesson.
Yeah, use it as a tool and give them an understanding of how it helps people.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it actually creates empathy.
Yeah.
And
I'm not too ashamed to say I'm also the mom that when I go, if I got to clean their room, stuff's getting tossed. If I know they're not going to remember it, it's in the trash. They have no. There's some things they remember, and Johnny has like such an intense memory, like so much. But there's some things I'm like, nope. If I got to clean it, you're going to be missing stuff, so you better clean it.
Oh yeah. Oh, for me to keep my sanity, I grab the black plastic bag. I'm so mean. I think so. I go, okay. I give them like 20 minutes to try and clean it up. 20 minutes is a lot of time.
Right.
But all I really want them to do in 20 minutes is to start cleaning up.
Right.
I know it takes them a long time, right?
Yeah.
Minutes. If they haven't started cleaning up, I go in and I'm like, oh, this goes in here, this goes in here. No, mom, no.
Exactly. Every time they see it. They could have not looked at it for 6 months, but you show them something and they're like, oh, that's mine. I want to play with it. I'm like, stop it. So now I'm like, if I got to help you, you're going to be missing stuff. But I also am like, you're not keeping 18 mini Squishmallows from McDonald's. You don't need them. They're all the same. So I get rid of all the overabundance of random toys too. Or like the broken stuff. Like there's some stuff like they had a horse that lost its tail and they're like, but we can still keep it. Or it had a broken leg, but I like this one. I'm like, no. I'm like, girl, we're not keeping everything that has a broken leg. If it was one that was really close to her, I could see that. But like, it's not. It's just one of her many horses. Like, it's not even your favorite horse. So I don't know with the clutter. I don't know. I aspire to be a put together person and I'm just not. And I'm just learning to embrace. I said to my dad just yesterday, I was like, all this stuff everywhere. He's like, well, that's kids. I said, this is not even all kids. This is all of us. Like there's just stuff everywhere.
Well, as a teacher and in my past life, I decided that clutter was actually creative disorder because I knew everything was. You move something in my clutter, I know it's moved.
Right.
Oh, it's moved. I don't know where, but I know it's not there anymore.
Right. Oh, I have that because I'll be like, where did you put this one thing? And then Sean's like, I don't know. I'm like, you cleaned up my office, or you cleaned up this. I'm like, where'd you put it? I don't know. I'm like, it was there and I knew it was there. And then when I wanted it, you had it moved. Just leave it.
Well, it sounds like for us, one of the things that would really be helpful is just everything should have a home, and don't touch it. Just put it back where it goes.
I try. Girl, I try. I've watched the home edit. I'm like, maybe if I color code, that would help. I don't know. I will someday. I will find a strategy that works for my little ADHD brain, but right now, I do not have one. I just organize and reorganize and reorganize and imagine that I'm going to keep up with it, but I never keep up with it. I just have to start from scratch over and over and over again. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. I think the one thing that I did for clothing, that is anyway, that's where I have kept something. Help me remember. I don't recall her name. She's Japanese and she had a
Marie
show.
Kondo.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I watched them all, man.
Yes, I took her thought because I learned it in Korea anyway when I was living there. And but I didn't know it was a real big thing and that it was like really cool. I just thought somebody was just teaching me a method, so I like did it. But you fold everything in thirds and put them in little boxes that are in your. I have a bunch of shoe boxes in all my drawers, but all the kids' shirts are all lined up. They can find what they want. I don't have to worry about it. The problem is, okay, yeah, mom, I found it now. Oh, there's 3-4 shirts on the floor, and like put them back in. Shove, shove, shove.
This is why. We have organized chaos. We have cube storage and we just put the stuff in there. I'm like, I don't care. There's one for pants, one for shirts. I do not care. We have some stuff hanging. I'm in a closet right now. We have some of their stuff hanging, but the majority is just like, stick it in there. As long as it's put away, I don't care. And honestly, that's something I had to let go of because I would love to have everything like that, but I don't do the laundry. My husband does the laundry. He folds the laundry. He's an amazing partner. He does a lot of things. And so rather than getting worked up and telling him to do things differently, I just let him do it. We have a system. We go with it. The only thing I do still occasionally complain about is how he folds my towels. I'm like, they don't fit properly in the cabinet. You need to fold them like this. He never does. But other than that, I'm like, you know what? If somebody else is doing it and I don't have to do it, I'm not going to complain about it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I happen to be one of those wives that has a husband that folds clothes, and he actually folds the towels way better than I do.
Right? People are always like, your husband, right? People are always like, your husband does that? Oh my gosh. I'm like, yeah, like my man loads the dishwasher every morning. I can't tell you the last time I had to go in the basement to do laundry. I don't know. I'm going to make a big homemade thing of like dry powder detergent. I found a recipe so that it lasts us forever. Outside of that, he does everything. I don't have to do it.
I was reading this morning about how some husbands are really stepping up. Really stepping up when it comes to being the husband, the father, and just the partner that we need. And that fits for anybody, you know, how just the partnership between a relationship and how important that is. And really the mental health of the mom, it is crucial. And I don't know the words I want to give, but I might stumble on it here. It's the relationship that the mom has with people is directly related to the mental health of the kids. That's what it was. Yeah. That's what I was trying to get to. And I was like, whoa. I mean, I knew this was true. And when I was thinking about how my husband took care of things, postpartum, I was a mess. Let me just put a disclaimer here. Don't know how you were, but I was a mess. Twin boys. C-section emergency and just trying to live life and survive and keep these little babies that were like fitting in my hands alive. So I was concentrating and my mama hormones were like, survive these babies. But my husband was doing a lot of things that were actually, when I think about it now, today, were extremely helpful. He still did the laundry. He still fed me. He fed me. I didn't realize. And I was so mean to him. I felt bad. I was grouchy and all of these things, but I never had postpartum depression. And I was reading this morning on the same note, right, about the mental health of the mom. That relationship and that care from the husband is what helps keep the mom out of postpartum depression. And I didn't realize that because I was like, I didn't have any. And my husband was always concerned. He goes, how do you feel today? How you feeling today? I'm like, just stop asking me. I'm getting frustrated.
He's like,
stressed.
I know what's going on here.
But I wasn't depressed. That was the thing. I was loving it. I was enjoying the kids. I was annoyed with him. But how is it for you? I mean,
I actually just had a conversation with someone about this, how people don't talk as much about postpartum anxiety. And a lot of times postpartum anxiety shows up as aggression and anger in women. and not so much the anxiety portion, but it comes out as a form of rage. And that's very much where I was this last postpartum. My first couple was more depression, but this time with working and juggling all the things and then having the baby and, you know, 2 older kids, it definitely came out more as that anger. And we only really hear of postpartum depression. We don't hear a lot about the anxiety portion of it.
Well, actually, can I say that this is the first time I've heard this? So tell me more. Yeah, I didn't know that. I thought it was only postpartum depression because in the hospital, that's all they said to look for.
Yeah. But there's been, I think, an increase of women being diagnosed with postpartum anxiety. And more often than not, it's showing up as anger and not so much as like the paranoia or things like that. Although I got some of that too. I tend to, which I think that for me is more of a trauma response. There's something that comes up like at a very set time postpartum that I notice comes up every single time where I panic about like, what happens if I die? Or, you know, it snows and then I'm like, I can't drive. Our whole family's going to die. I'm going to leave my kids behind. Who are they going to go to? And then I'm like, my will, blah, 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 you know, and I go down this like rabbit hole. But I think often people don't realize that it is actually the anxiety side of it because it's more aggression. So people just think, oh, you're just being cranky, hormonal, whatever. But no one says postpartum anxiety actually can manifest as postpartum anger.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do they say anything else? Is there like
well,
something
if you
that
think
we should
about
do
it
as moms to get help, or is it something we just get through? Because I got through it, but
I think with anything, like there's always something you can do with that. But I also think, especially when it comes to postpartum, there is a level of getting through it as well. Because you can still get on like, you know, an SSRI, you can get on like a Zoloft or something like that to help because they give you that for anxiety as well. Because, you know, when you think of depression, that's like that deactivated where you're frozen, you're like kind of like withdrawn, you're sad, you've got the heaviness. But the anxiety side is just more of that activated response. So if you're not the person who had like people like us who are more on that like aggressive side, just in general, like we're just loud, eccentric, you know, bold people coming from that, it's really just the opposite side of that spectrum of like, you are just in more of that activated state rather than the depression state where you would just feel just sad all the time or have those baby blues. You might go into more of that elevated, you know, it's like fight or flight. It's like you just have that free or freeze. You know, the depression might be more of that flight or freeze, whereas the postpartum anxiety just goes more into that fight response.
It's just bringing back a lot of memories and a lot of things that I'm thinking of right now because I think I had it pretty bad. Like I said, I was pretty mean to my husband. Thinking back on it and all the things he did do, I had an angel for a husband because I mean, he was a jerk sometimes. Come on.
Right.
You know,
we all are.
We all are, right? But
yeah.
And there are some times he could have been kinder, but he was lack of sleep too. I mean, we had twin boys. I mean,
your body went through it though too. The hormones are going through your body. Like, yeah, there is a certain level that they have to go through. But if you think about all the things that your body's enduring, all the hormones that are going on, and then if you're nursing and then you're healing and all of these things, it's like your level, if we talk about burnout in any sense, your level of burnout is already there. So like your cup of overwhelm is already full. And so any little thing dropped into there is going to make it just spill over, you know, and you could say, well, I don't know why I'm like this because he's dealing with it too. But the reality is we downplay how hard it is for us as moms and how much physically is really.
I think that's true.
Yeah. And I actually had a conversation with someone talking about matrescence, and like basically it's kind of like adolescence, but it's when you go into motherhood and everything physically, emotionally, like mentally, everything changes, and it's actually reforming your brain and all the things. So just as you would go into adolescence and your body changes and your brain changes, that same thing happens when you become a mother. And so when you think about all of those changes that we just completely disregard, when the reality is it's completely changing fundamentally who we are on a mental, physical, emotional level. It's wild.
That is so true. I notice those changes still.
Oh yeah.
Now. I mean, there are times like earlier, I couldn't think of the way I wanted to word something. I'm like, sometimes I think I'm dumb because I can't retrieve what I really want to say.
Right.
And I have heard, tell me if this is true. I don't know if you've heard it too, but part of our brains shrunk. Is that true as mothers? Is part of our brain shrunk?
Shrinking? I don't know, but I definitely know the mom brain thing is real. And I know I've read up on it before and now I can't remember. It just like escapes me like that. But there is definitely studies that say that like mom brain is a real thing. And I think you're always postpartum. That's how I look at it. Once you've had kids, you are always postpartum.
Okay.
You're worried.
I can blame it on postpartum. I'm still postpartum.
Yeah, exactly. We think of it as like this first 2 years, but the reality is, well, for one, takes like 2 years for the hormones to go back to relatively normal after you have a baby. So 2 years
well,
alone.
after you breastfeed too, and I breastfed until 27 months.
Yeah,
so,
I'm still breastfeeding my 19-month-old. Yeah, so
right?
there's still all those hormones. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's so much that's going on all the time in our bodies, like so much we don't even understand. I mean, it's great that you recognized it, but like it happens. I mean, it's definitely a real thing.
Wow. I just keep reading. Just keep reading. Getting my
Validating
brain
you.
there.
Do you feel a sigh of relief? Oh.
Oh my gosh, that's all. Yeah, there's a lot of challenges being a parent. I mean, especially, and I want to say especially a mom. I guess I haven't gotten to the point where I can say, hey, it was tough on me. Please, someone validate me
Right.
as a mom.
Right.
Because my family and my generation background of everybody who's parented me, and I say everybody because I've had aunts and my mother and other grandparents, they've all parented me. And their thought was, you just do it and you get through it and you can keep going. Quit complaining.
I think that's a big society thing too. Like that's been so generationally, like with society, like passed on to us. There's like this conditioned belief that like, oh, well, you're a mom. It's not that special. Move on. But the reality is there's so much going on that we didn't even know and didn't even talk about up until this point. So yeah, people used to say that, but I think we have a lot more empathy now with the understanding of like how our brains are shifting, how our bodies are shifting. Like there wasn't all of this. I mean, there is some neuroscience, but nowadays it's like exploded and there's so much more information and studies, like back in the day, they were like, oh yeah, that's sad. We all go through it, move on. But now we're like, oh, that's why.
Well, it makes sense, right? When you have the understanding behind it, then you have a little more empathy for others.
Yeah.
And even us as mothers to empathize with other mothers. It's so important. And I gotta take a breather.
I think that's been probably one of the hardest things nowadays is just because we're in a very interesting time of this generational gap, and we're like between the new way of doing things, I guess, or like the more natural. I think it's a natural way. I think gentle parenting, conscious parenting is just parenting, and that's the more natural way. I just think generationally it's been like skewed so much and people weren't taught the ways to do things, but we're in this weird gap. And I think because of that, it does take a toll on our mental health because we don't have the support and the same people. Because if you think about it, even back in the day, even like I'm a 90s baby, but in the 90s, everyone was pretty much parenting the same way. I mean, there was some, but everyone was doing the same idea of what it looked like. The villages back in the day, they did things, the same culture, the same idea. And now we're in this gap where the younger generations, the millennials, are so different from how they were raised. And it went into that permissive. So we had like the older generations who were like, children are to be seen and not heard, to the next generation saying, well, I don't want that. So they swung completely permissive to then now where we're at. And so we have so many people living with so many different ideas where it didn't used to be that way. And so now it's harder to find that village of people that support you or relate to you or that connect in the same way, because there's so many different ideas of what it needs to look like, because there's so many generations at this time in on our timeline, whatever that is, that look at things so differently, where it didn't used to be so vastly different generation to generation, I think.
Yeah, which is exciting and kind of scary at the same time.
Right, yeah.
Because you have all these different ideas and these dynamics of parenting, but then you have to pick out for yourself, because you are your own parent and you're the best parent for your child, and you know your child best to pick out what's going to work for your family of all the best parts of everything out there.
Yeah. Yep.
So how do we do that?
Yeah. It's so interesting.
Right.
And I mean, I think that's where a lot of this mental health conversation came up too, is because so many of us came out of families with dysfunction and wanted to be validated and wanted to take things seriously, that then the mental health movement came. And now I think with that movement has come these parenting movements of like, okay, now if we're going to talk mental health, how do we work on that mental health? How do we take care of you? How do we take care of your kids? How, like, what does that look like? And so, like you said, it is a little scary, but it's also the process that kind of has to come out of it, I think, to make that change. Like we're just in that process now, in the thick of it, which I think of the Frozen song, Into the Unknown. Like I feel like we're just going into the unknown. We don't know. We know it's a good direction. We just don't know what's coming.
That's right. Par for the course, because parenting is into the unknown too for everybody.
Right, exactly. Right? Exactly. So yeah, we're just kind of in a weird directional shift. And so we're just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess move forward.
Forward with the insight. Oh my gosh, I'm just thinking about my kids and moving forward and seeing where they're going to be from this moment and with the different styles. And also when I go visit family, I don't know what you've experienced, but for me, because of these different stages of parenting philosophies that have been out there, my family, for some unknown reason, thinks that I'm permissive, but peaceful parenting or gentle parenting is not permissive. It's responsive parenting with what do you call this? Oh my gosh, see, my brain's not working. It's not collaboration with what
like
do you call it? Boundaries, consequences. See?
well,
Boom.
it is kind of collaboration, but it's like you're setting limits, you're setting loving limits for your
Yes.
kids. And I think that's where there's such a misconception too, because a lot of times when people say gentle parenting, they're like, oh, you let your kid do whatever they want. And I see all those skits, which are okay, they are hilarious, of people like making fun of it, because I
Yeah.
know that they're not actually, like, they think that they're talking about gentle parenting, but I know that that's not an accurate representation. So I can still laugh about it, because I can still say, yeah, there's definitely people that do that. But I also know that they're not accurately representing what gentle parenting is. So I can laugh and say like that it's ridiculous. Yeah, that kind of approach is not really gonna do you much good. But there is such there's like a stigma around it, as if it's like you just let them do whatever they want because you let them have a voice and because you let them make choices or collaborate on the choices that you're making as a family. For some reason, people think that's permissive, when I think it's respectful. I think they deserve respect just like anybody else, and they deserve input into their family.
I think just opening it up here to things that people don't normally talk about and be real. It's so important. When I talk about, actually, I really can't talk about too much parenting with my family because of the different philosophies that we were talking about. It ignites some pretty interesting conversations, and I don't want those conversations around my children.
Yes.
And so I am really careful, but what they see as leniency, I see as a child trying to figure something out. And so I wait, and I don't jump in right away. And I don't let them listen by saying, I'm going to slap you or punish you. I don't, because discipline is different. And what I feel comfortable with is also taking care of my mental health. If I don't feel comfortable disciplining my child the way someone else does, you can't do it. You just can't. It really messes you up mentally, and it's going to mess up the relationship between you and your child. Because I know, because I've tried, because I thought maybe I'm missing something in the beginning of parenting, maybe I'm wrong. No, I wasn't wrong. It was totally killing me inwardly to do some of the things. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I have cried with my children for things and yelling when I didn't want to, but I'm like, well, maybe I need to. Oh, no, I didn't, because it bothered me more.
That's where I'm at with timeout. I put my daughter in timeout in an office I had at an old place. She was, I don't know, maybe not even two, maybe she was about two. Anyway, it was a glass door, the glass windows. It was an office, but we had it as a playroom. And she did something, I don't even remember. And I put her in there and I closed the door, and she flipped out. And I took one little look at her face, like crying and terrified that she was separated from me. Right then and there, I was like, I will never put my kid in timeout again, ever, ever. I never want to instill that kind of fear in my child. And I haven't. And they even know, they'll be like, we don't do timeouts. Or sometimes they'll say things like, oh, we're going to have a timeout. I'm like, when do we ever do timeouts? But now they'll be like, we don't do timeouts. I'm like, no, because I think I'm not going to leave someone in another room. We might take a moment to take a break, but I never like force them away from me. Like I'll say, okay, we're going to sit out, or, whatever, we're going to stop what we're doing. But it's never a timeout where I'm like, go to your room, let me put you in the corner. Like it's never, ever like that, because that face is like burned into my memory, and I can never.
There's one burned in my memory when I was talking to you. Like that's like, I'm like, every time I'm like, I can't do it. Okay, based on what we talked about so far, and love the conversation. It's been so much fun, actually. Is there one thing that you would like to leave the listeners, like to leave them with something that they can take?
Speaking to the fact that just validating each other and saying how hard motherhood is, and speaking to the science, I guess, behind our changes, and how physically and emotionally and mentally heavy it can be to be a parent. If I was going to walk away with anything, it's just have compassion for yourself and know that nobody's perfect, not even us as coaches. We're never going to get it completely perfect. Someday, I said this to my dad when we were at a family thing, like, someday my kids are going to be like, Mom, you did this wrong. And I'm going to be like, okay, well, I was fixing this, and that generationally. So now you take that and you run with it. Like we never get it perfect. And just give yourself the grace to mess up sometimes and be willing to apologize. And that goes for your parenting, that goes for your marriage, that goes for any of your relationships. Be okay with that. None of us are perfect, and just be willing to have the humility to apologize and give yourself grace for the fact that you're a human.
Yay. I appreciate that so much. I need to hear that too. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jessica, for being here and just giving us your input and wealth of understanding, because I feel so cherished at the moment.
Well, I'm glad. I love having conversations with you.
Remember, you are powerful, you are worthy, you are valued, and you are loved. Keep pushing, keep loving, and most importantly, keep believing in your amazing ability to empower your legacy.